The Fugitive is a 1993 American thriller film directed by Andrew Davis. The movie stars Harrison Ford as Dr. Richard Kimble, a prominent vascular surgeon who is wrongfully convicted of murdering his wife. On his way to death row, the train transporting Kimble derails during a botched escape attempt by another prisoner, allowing Kimble to flee. The film follows Kimble's desperate attempt to clear his name while being pursued by Deputy U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard, played by Tommy Lee Jones, who is determined to recapture him. Kimble becomes a fugitive as he tries to uncover the truth behind his wife's murder and find the one-armed man whom he believes is the true killer. The Fugitive was a critical and commercial success, praised for its thrilling plot, performances, and action sequences. Tommy Lee Jones won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his role as Deputy Marshal Samuel Gerard. The film's success also led to a spin-off sequel called U.S. Marshals in 1998, although it didn't feature Harrison Ford's character Dr. Richard Kimble. In The Fugitive, one of the pivotal and iconic scenes involves a train wreck. Dr. Richard Kimble, portrayed by Harrison Ford, is being transported with other prisoners on a train when a confrontation between Kimble and another inmate leads to chaos. During the struggle, a fight ensues, causing the train to derail and crash. Amidst the wreckage, Kimble manages to escape while handcuffed, taking advantage of the confusion and damage caused by the derailment. This event serves as a catalyst to Kimble's escape and his journey as a fugitive as he tries to prove his innocence while being pursued by the authorities, particularly by U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard. The train wreck scene is one of the most memorable moments in the film and sets the tone for the intense chase and suspense that follows. The train wreck scene from 1993 movie The Fugitive involved a real collision between locomotives and a prison bus in a small western North Carolina town of Dillsboro. The Great Smoky Mountains Railroad owns the wreckage and plans to leave it right where it is. The wreck and prison bus are located on private property owned by the historical Smoky Mountain Railway. The wreckage is at 973 Haywood Road, Sylvan, North Carolina 28779, less than a mile west of U.S. Highway 441 if you happen to want to go and take a look. To enter the property, visitors must stop at the office and sign a release. If you enter 973 Haywood Road, Sylva, North Carolina, into your GPS, you'll find yourself around the Jackson County Green Energy Park. Park on the side of the road and proceed to the opposite side of the street. As you walk along the chain fence, you'll see the Fugitive train wreck down below through the trees. According to the LA Times, the Fugitive spent $1 million to crash that train, which is surprising to many viewers. Typically, movies would use models in order to pull off the stunt, with it presumably being easier to use a smaller recreation than to use the real thing. But believe it or not, using a real train and bus was cheaper than using models. That's interesting. Explaining why the Fugitive was willing to do the crash.
What Warner Brothers wanted to do was two stages. First, a stage was to wreck a bus with the train, with the engine. And then the second stage was to wreck the full length of the train.
On a cold February morning at 4:14 a.m., the Great Smoky Mountain Railway crew released the 7-car train, which was on its way to becoming one of the greatest staged train wrecks in history.
It seems I fit in a Western movie set in all the movie set videos that I'm making. In 1946, Pioneertown was founded by a group of Hollywood investors, including actors Roy Rogers, Dick Curtis, Russell Hayden, and Gene Autry. They dreamed of creating an Old West set 125 miles east of Los Angeles that was a town worth visiting, with 1880s-style false front facades, but interiors that had stuff for visitors to see and do as well. Up went frontier stables, saloons, and jails. Inside, they housed ice cream parlors, bowling alleys, and motels. The town was designed as a backdrop for filming Western movies and television shows. Its authentic Wild West-style facades, wooden buildings, and dusty streets were constructed to resemble an 1880s frontier town, providing an ideal setting for filming Westerns. Many iconic Western films and TV shows were shot in Pioneertown during the 1940s and 1950s, contributing to its cinematic legacy. Stars like Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, and the Cisco Kid were among those who worked on productions in this unique set. Some of the productions that filmed in Pioneertown, maybe not the complete production, but parts of a movie or television show. The Cisco Kid. The Cisco Kid first appeared in the 1907 short story The Caballero's Way, written by O. Henry. Duncan Rinaldo played the role of the Cisco Kid, and Leo Carrillo portrayed his loyal sidekick, Pancho. The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean from 1972, directed by John Huston and starring Paul Newman. Edge of Eternity, a Norse crime thriller directed by Don Siegel. 1950's The Gunfighter, starring Gregory Peck. Vera Cruz, 1954, this Western film directed by Robert Aldwych and starring Gary Cooper and Burt Lancaster. And I can go on and on and on. There were many productions and movies that were filmed here, both for television and film. In July 2006, parts of Pioneertown were burned in the Sawtooth Complex fire, which also burned into Yucca Valley and Morongo Valley. Firefighters managed to save the historic movie set buildings, but much of the surrounding desert habitat was damaged. While Pioneertown was initially created as a movie set, over time, it developed into a community where some people settled and made their homes. Today, Pioneertown still retains its Old West charm and serves as a tourist attraction. Visitors can explore the historic Main Street, which features buildings reminiscent of an old Western town, dine at the famous Pappy and Harriet's Pioneertown Palace, and experience a bit of the Old West atmosphere that continues to attract visitors and tourists. Beyond its historical significance in the film industry, Pioneertown has become a cultural and entertainment hub in the desert, drawing in tourists, music enthusiasts, and those seeking a taste of the Wild West history amid the beautiful desert landscape of Southern California. In recent years, the town has been experiencing something of a renaissance. Artists, entrepreneurs, and just regular folk looking to escape city stress are finding their way here. Longtime standby, the Pioneertown Motel, a rustic single-story 20-room inn, has been updated with fire pits, an outdoor bar, and hammocks. It and Locapine, an upscale eatery in nearby Flamingo Heights, are contributing to the area's newfound reputation as a hip getaway. Six Flags New Orleans was a theme park located in New Orleans, Louisiana. It originally opened in 2000 under the name Jazzland, but after Six Flags acquired it in 2002, it was rebranded as Six Flags New Orleans. The park was situated on a 140-acre plot in eastern New Orleans and featured various rides, attractions, and entertainment for visitors. Tragically, the park faced significant damage during Hurricane Katrina in 2005. The extensive flooding caused by the hurricane devastated the park, submerging many of the attractions under several feet of water for an extended period. The park was subsequently closed indefinitely due to the extensive damage and was never reopened as a Six Flags theme park. Movies that filmed some scenes there pre-Katrina was K911, that's a comedy film starring Jane Belushi that used parts of the theme park for certain scenes, and then K9PI, another movie in the K9 series starring Jim Belushi. And just as a side note, I love the original K9 and the sequels weren't terrible, although they were direct to DVD. Movies that filmed some scenes there after Katrina. Perry Jackson in the Sea of Monsters in 2013. This fantasy adventure film, based on Rick Riordan's novel, utilized parts of the abandoned theme park for certain scenes. The Industrial Development Board agreed to let 20th Century Fox film the 2013 film Perry Jackson's Sea of Monsters in the theme park during the summer of 2012 through August. The Mega Zep, Azarka Splash, and the Big Easy are three rides that have been shot for the film, along with 5 other rides that the production crew actually brought into the park since all the original rides were rendered inoperable to shoot for the film. Before shooting at the park for 5 weeks, the production crew took 2 weeks to restore the derelict park into a needed condition by installing lighting and covering up graffiti on the buildings. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes from 2014, while not entirely filmed at Six Flags New Orleans, some scenes for this science fiction film, directed by Matt Reeves, were reportedly shot at the abandoned site during the summer of 2013. Stolen Lies from 2009, a thriller film starring John Hamm and Josh Lucas that reportedly filmed scenes at the abandoned theme park. Penthouse North from 2013, a thriller movie starring Michael Keaton and Michelle Monaghan. The Last Exorcism Part 2 from 2013. Killer Joe from 2011. Killer Joe was filmed in the park, featuring the wooden coaster Mega Zep. Jurassic World from 2015. The park was also used to film portions of the movie Jurassic World in June of 2014. There were reports that certain scenes for this blockbuster movie were filmed at the abandoned park, contributing to the dystopian setting. In 2019, the park was the subject of the Bright Sun Films documentary titled Closed for the Storm. The documentary features visuals of the park and its current state, as well as interviews with past employees, fans, and developers interested in rebuilding the property. It received a wide release in July of 2021. At the time of this documentary, the park remains abandoned and in a state of disrepair. Various proposals and discussions have emerged over the years regarding potential redevelopment or revitalization of the site, but as of that time, no concrete concrete plans have materialized for its future use. The park has, however, become a subject of interest for urban explorers and has been featured in documentaries and media due to its eerie, abandoned state. Hawthorne Plaza was part of the Hawthorne Plaza redevelopment project approved in 1969, which called for the redevelopment of a 35-acre plot of land. Ground was broken for the mall in January of 1974, and most of the mall's 134 stores opened in February 1977. It included an indoor mall with 3 anchored stores, Montgomery Ward, the Broadway, and J.C. Penney's, and freestanding stores at the property's south end. The mall largely catered to the middle-class residents living in and around Hawthorne and featured cheaper stores than other nearby malls such as South Bay Galleria, Manhattan Village, and the Del Amo Fashion Center. Despite initial popularity, the mall's early years were marred by 2 shootings in 1979. The mall went further into decline in the 1980s and 1990s, due in part to the economic decline of the area after the cutbacks in aerospace jobs, white flight, and to competition from other shopping centers. While the mall was still in use, movies were filmed there. There was Repo Man from 1984. This cult classic sci-fi punk film directed by Alex Cox starred Emilio Estevez. Night of the Comet, also from 1984. This cult classic sci-fi comedy horror film was directed by Tom Eberhardt. The movie follows 2 sisters who survive a comet's passing that turns most of the world's population into dust. There was Chopping Mall from 1986. That's a horror comedy film set in the mall terrorized by killer robots. And Cherry 2000, a 1987 sci-fi film starring Melanie Griffith and David Andrews, utilizing the mall's abandoned spaces for futuristic settings. In 1992, the mall was heavily looted and damaged during the 1992 Los Angeles riots, but sales stayed consistent following the unrest briefly until the end of the decade. The mall's number of occupied stores declined from 130 in the late 1980s to 87 stores in 1994 and around 70 in 1998. After the Macy's Clearance Center, which replaced the Broadway upon the latter's purchase by the Federated Department Stores, closed in December of 1997. Plans were announced to put in an AMC theater on the site and convert the mall into an open-air shopping center, but the renovations failed to materialize. The mall's final anchor store, J.C. Penney's, closed in 1998, and the mall itself closed in 1999. The southern section of the mall across from the parking structure was demolished in 1998 and rebuilt as a strip mall. It currently includes a supermarket, a pharmacy, and some small restaurants. By the early 2000s, Hawthorne Plaza Mall had largely become abandoned, with most of the storefronts vacant. The decline continued and the mall fell into a state of disrepair and decay. The interior became dilapidated, and the space was often frequented by urban explorers and photographers interested in documenting its abandoned state. The mall building and most of its multi-story parking lots are now abandoned except for a police training center that was built in the portion formerly occupied by Montgomery Ward. Most of the interior was gutted sometime around the mid-2000s. Efforts were made by the city and various developers to revitalize or redevelop the site, but progress was slow. There have been many ongoing discussions and plans for potential redevelopment projects aiming to transform the area into mixed-use spaces or alternative facilities. Specific details are finalized plans for the future of Hawthorne Plaza Mall have not yet been publicly confirmed at this time. Movies that filmed there after the closing of the mall. One was Strange Days from 1995. That was directed by Catherine Bigelow. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey from 1991. Other films would be Gone Girl, Minority Report, The Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift, Training Day, Transformers, Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, Beverly Hills Cop 3, American History X, The Relic, Repossessed, Fear of a Black Hat, Dawn of the Dead, Mallrats, Steel, Black Superman, whatever the hell that was, Darkman 3, Die Darkman Die, Demonic Toys, Graffiti Bridge, Extreme Justice, The Omega Code, Dance of the Dead, Fright Night Part 2, and Van Nuys Boulevard, whatever the hell that is. On January 26th of 2022, the mall was heavily damaged by arson in connection to a makeshift homeless encampment. The entrance to the former Broadway building and the central entrance were both severely damaged following the fire. On December 15th of 2022, mall owner Armin Gabia was sentenced 2 to 4 years in prison for bribing a Los Angeles County official in a scheme to sign a lucrative tenancy agreement for the abandoned mall. Good job there, Airman. In October of 2023, Cushman and Wakefield acquired the mall property and placed it in for sale for redevelopment opportunities. The initial plan during the acquisition was to turn the mall into residential apartments. Dick hasn't been done since. We'll see if that ever comes into fruition. And for our final one this time out, we have Aldwych Tube Station. It's a disused station on the London Underground. It was originally opened in 1907 as the eastern terminus of a short Piccadilly line branch from Holborn. However, due to low passenger numbers, the station closed in 1917 during World War I and reopened briefly during weekends in the 1920s. Served mostly by a shuttle train and having low passenger numbers, Aldwych Tube Station and branch were considered for closure several times. Service was offered only during weekday peak hours from 1962. This occurred for 30 years with the closure announcement on January 4th of 1993. The Aldwych Tube Station was discontinued by 1994. The original 1907 lifts required replacement at the cost of £3 million. This was not considered justifiable in relation to the passenger numbers using the station, and it was losing London Regional Transport £150,000 per year. The Secretary of State for Transport granted permission on September 1st of 1994 to close the station and the branch, which closed officially on September 30th. Recognizing the station's historical significance as mostly unaltered station from the early 20th century, the station was given Grade 2 listed building status in 2011. Since its closure, Aldwych has been used for various purposes, including as a set for film and television productions. The station is known for its unique architecture and is occasionally open to the public for tours and special events. Because it was a self-contained section of the London Underground that was closed outside weekday peak hours, Aldwych Station and the branch line from Holborn were popular locations for filming scenes set on the tube even before their closure. Since the branch's closure in 1994, its use in film productions has continued. Its use in film productions has continued with the station appearing as itself and with appropriate signage as other stations on the network. The track and infrastructure are maintained in operational condition until 2021. A train of ex-Northern Line 1970 tube stock was stabled on the branch. This train could be driven up and down the branch for filming. Some films and television productions that have been shot at Aldwych include The Gentle Gunman, Gideon's Day, Battle of Britain, Deep End, Death Line, Take It or Leave It, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, The Craze, Patriot Games, Creep, V for Vendetta, The Good Shepherd, Atonement, 28 Weeks Later, The Bank Job, The Edge of Love, Mr. Selfridge, Fast and Furious 6, Sherlock, Darkest Hour, Secrets of the London Underground, and Luther, The Fallen Sun.
The Underground.
Sure, yeah.